Hello everyone. So good to see you again. Happy Monday. So, we are going to kind of chat a little bit about something I've been going through recently that I think will really help you guys because it ties directly into my intention for the entire year. And I had a little breakthrough in my own personal practice, and I think this is something that a lot of you will relate to, and I'd love to hear what you guys think about this. So let me know when you arrive so I can say hello to you. I hope that everyone is having an incredible day so far. Goat Wolf Boy, hello, welcome. And right before we get started, I just want to let you guys know that Peak Audio is live for Android users and iPhone, so now anybody can sign up for the challenges that I have, can become a member over there on my profile. And really what we're doing over there, we're building a community. I'll be having full ad-free sleep tracks on there that I've made. I'm creating tons of different courses and programs that you guys will have access to. So there's ones just on dreaming and techniques for dreaming, like dream work guides. There's a whole meditation program that we just finished. My sleep music is going to be on there. Breath work is going to be on there. And it will be an incredible way to get access to tons of content that isn't available anywhere else, and to kind of help me grow a community on there so we can all stay connected. So if you are interested in the last challenge that we did a 7-day meditation for dream work challenge, which was 7 ways to meditate your way into the dream world to explore different ways to use your dreams and to explore your dreams. And so now that is available for everybody now that the challenge is over. And if you are on my email list, I did send an email out about that, but there we go. There is the link. CD Gaming, how is it going? How is it going? So, I have a few little bullet points that I'm going to hit just so I can kind of stay on track. But that is really the only update right now. I do have the 2-week Lucid Dreaming Challenge being made right now, so this will be the next challenge on Peak. So if you are already subscribed to me on there, you should be able just to get access to the challenge. I'm still new to working on this app, but I'm pretty sure that you can sign up for individual programs or just subscribe and you can unlock everything every month. So I'm excited to get that going. I'm excited to see what you guys think of it, and let's jump in. So head over here. So for this year, this intention of mine was going to be something that I really just focus on for the entire year. And really what it was to heal my body and my mind and to learn about who I truly am. Now, body, I have overcome a lot of digestive issues, as you guys know. I healed a lot of it through lucid dreaming. I had gastritis, IBS, esophagitis, ulcers, and even through all of that healing, I still do get flare-ups like when I worry a ton, because we hold worry and stress in our belly, and that's where our root chakra is, which is connected to our survival and if we feel safe or not. And so that totally makes sense with my, the connection to the brain and the gut, first of all. And your brain can misunderstand signals that are sent to it from the gut. So that means if you are in, if you have digestive issues, though, that can cause anxiety and panic attacks. And if you have panic attacks or anxiety, that can cause digestive issues. They're very, very connected. And really, the last time that I experienced a really bad flare-up, which it was when I took care of my grandmother in hospice a few years ago. And my entire body shuts down when that happens. I'm telling you, I'm in fight or flight response fully when that happens. I can't eat, I can't sleep, and I feel like it literally is like my body has food poisoning. I feel so uncomfortable in my body, like I'm just absolutely sick. And that really hasn't happened, obviously, for a while because I haven't been in really intense situations. Thankfully, we don't have to experience that very often. But that was my intention for this year, to fully focus on my body and my mind, the health of my body and mind this year, and to learn something new about who I truly am. Hello, Skip. How's it going? Well, I think it was 2 weeks ago total. First of all, let me preface this by that voice that we let talk in our mind constantly. That's not actually who you are. That is something that is tied to this human experience that is really created to help you survive. That's the only thing. Your mind is not there to, your brain is not really there to be your friend necessarily, but to keep you safe. And when we allow ourselves, when we're going about our life, your mind is constantly sending you judgments and input from the outside world. Go Wolf, I totally know. We're going to dive so deep into that, because that is exactly where I'm going with this, is exploring what that is, who that is, and what's on the other side of that. That voice we can get totally lost in, right? Especially like sometimes that voice is a lot louder than other times. Like when somebody upsets you, there's all of these judgments. Oh, well, did he really meant that when he said that? Oh, I knew that he didn't like me. What if he's thinking this? What if he's thinking that? Or if you're like me, maybe you replay conversations that you've already had. You play them a million times in your head, so you can come up with something better to say, or so you can think your way into a different understanding of that situation, whatever it may be. I used to notice myself doing this a lot with the conversations with my mom, because as you guys know, I've been no contact with my mom for a little bit. And every time we'd have a talk or like an argument or something, that conversation would replay in my head for days. It was just so active. Sometimes we like the things that this voice says, and sometimes we don't like the things that this voice says, right? But really what it is, it's almost random, completely random input based on what your mind thinks you need, what it thinks you need to survive, what it believes your beliefs are about this situation. Hello, Greg. No worries. Welcome. So that voice in your mind is constantly giving you information from the outside world, and it's really just a ton of noise. And that is where our suffering really comes from, is that voice, because that voice in our mind is rooted in attachment. It's rooted to the physical world, and it doesn't have the ability to understand the present moment, and that what is in front of us is not fact. So this voice is tied to the human experience, and it is constantly giving you preferences and judgments about what you're experiencing. And once you start connecting with that voice, believing that that voice is actually you, you start to get really stressed about what it's saying, first of all, right? Like, if this thing that's thinking constantly and like constantly talking to me is me, why is it saying this? I don't really think that. We start to freak out about some of the things it says. We start to try to push things away that it says, right? Or sometimes we really like what this voice is saying. We're like, oh, that's true. We pick what we like from this voice. We throw away what we don't like from this voice. But at the end of the day, it's all that same voice. Now, suffering, which is like from what I've been experiencing, there's a difference between pain and suffering, by the way. Pain is something that's like a fact. It's something that happened. Suffering, a lot of the time, is what we create within ourselves. It's the attachments that we have to things inside. It's the judgments. It's the perceptions. It's the, I need it to be this way so I feel okay inside, or I need this person to say this to me or to be this way to me so I feel okay inside, so there's not a disturbance inside. That voice is always trying to control the outside world to get what it needs to feel okay. And you know when you don't feel okay inside, because that voice is extra active. You feel a ton of energy inside. Your mind is going so fast. Maybe you're sweating. Maybe you can't relax, right? And why is that happening? What is that voice? What is on the other side of that? That's really what I've been exploring lately. I've noticed that that voice has been a lot louder lately than usual. And I've noticed that before this, I would do something to kind of distract almost. Like, oh my gosh, I'm feeling a little anxious. Let me just do this. Or let me just paint and take my mind off things. Or let me do this. That works for a temporary amount of time, right? But you will notice that that voice or that anxiety or whatever that is, it does eventually come back somehow, some way, right? And I guess I had little thoughts or little bits of anxiety that would come up, and maybe I would just like breathe through it, or oh, I felt weird for a second, I'm not sure why that's happening, you know, push it away. Well, this past couple, I'd say it's like a week and a half, I've been feeling pretty good this past week, but the week before, I would wake up and I would wake up in complete panic attack. for some reason, I would wake up, my stomach drops. Like, I feel this intense stomach churning feeling, like something bad just really happened. That's what happens when I like get really bad. Like, for example, when I took care of my grandma in hospice, we just talked about this. That's what it felt like in my body. And all of a sudden I started feeling nauseous and I started feeling sick, so I went to go sit in the bathroom. Oh my gosh, I think I'm gonna throw up. Oh my gosh, I hate the way that my stomach's feeling. Let me try to make like, whatever that voice tells us to do in a state of discomfort, we are just grasping at straws. We are trying to do anything. And a lot of the time, our anxiety that we feel, it's us having anxiety about future anxiety. We're creating anxiety in the moment based on like anticipating having it in the future or at a bad time, for example. Maybe you have like stomach issues or something and you hate traveling, or you want to travel but it's really, really stressful for you to get on a plane. A lot of that anxiety or a lot of that flare-up may come from you anticipating what will happen on that flight. And your brain will eventually tie together flight equals danger or I'm sick. And so unconsciously, we start to create these connections. And I realized that after like waking up a few nights from like panic in my bed and like trying to just sit in bed, panicking, like trying to calm myself down, little did I know, my brain started to associate bed with the right time to panic, because I stayed in bed. I stayed in bed when I felt panicky, and so whatever we allow ourselves emotionally to feel with our surroundings or whatever we're doing, our brain is saving that information. So little did I know, when I'm trying to not feel sick and I'm trying not to overthink and I'm trying to go back to sleep, I'm actually resisting everything. I'm resisting what my thoughts are thinking, I'm resisting how my body's feeling, and I'm also resisting what my body wants to do. It clearly has way too much energy to sleep, so trying to sleep when you're anxious is actually going to do the complete opposite for you, and it may potentially make it harder for your body to completely relax in your bed in the future. But it can be rewired easily, so don't worry about that. But with these thoughts, it's almost, tell me if you relate to this, because anxiety completely changes our perception. We can be feeling completely safe, happy, calm, everything's fine. Maybe we're out to dinner, everything's lovely, but all of a sudden anxiety can almost put a lens over our eyes so that everything seems completely different. We don't even recognize the thoughts we're having. We can't even be in the moment because we feel like we are in danger or like we can't relax. Maybe you get existential thoughts, like what's going to happen after this life, if you're going to get sick sometime in your life, or how am I going to die? Like, whatever these thoughts are, we can all have anxiety about several different things, but a lot of the time it's either about the past or the future. So next time you feel anxious, or next time you're being pulled in a certain direction because your thoughts are extra active, just see where they're taking you first of all. See if it's taking you to the past, or see if it's taking you to the future. My anxiety, it seemed to be rooted in things that haven't even happened yet. So that's one thing that I realized by journaling a lot recently, is I started to just do what's called a brain dump. And this is basically, instead of letting all of these thoughts, all of these anxieties swirl around your head where it's really hard to make sense of them, try putting them on a piece of paper. It's going to completely change what you actually think your brain is saying, I promise you. Take a piece of paper, and I have like a full journal for this, like you can call it thought downloads, brain dumps, whatever you want. But basically you're just going to, whatever your brain is saying, you're just going to write it, just let it write out everything. And then once there's like nothing kind of left in your mind to write, you will notice it's quieter in there. And it's because you're listening. You're finally becoming aware of the thoughts that you're having. And that's exactly what your mind wants. If it thinks that it's in danger, or it thinks that, and that's all your mind's trying to do. It's not trying to cause you harm. It's trying to protect you, but it doesn't know how you need to be protected. This is why we need to kind of train our brain. Okay, brain, this is helpful. This is actually a waste of time. So this is not your job anymore. We're going to start doing this instead. It's really like training a dog. But you want to start by understanding what's in there so you can see it from a different perspective, and so we can start to see what's causing these patterns and how we can kind of switch something in our mind to make it actually help us. So once you write out all of your thoughts on a paper, you just want to read through it, and it really shows you a lot. I started to look at every single time my brain had a worry on this paper, like all of the things it was worried about, and all of the things it was worried about were things that like haven't even happened. It's a potential for the future. But do you know how many potentials there are for future outcomes? Trillions. Trillions. And you want to know something that's interesting? 85, they did some sort of study with like 50,000 people or something. I can't even remember. But 85% of the things that we worry about never happen. They never happen. And 13% of things actually turn out better than what we expected or thought they would. And so this voice is really just giving you input about possible scenarios. That way you can prevent them in the future. It's like giving you every possible option of what could go wrong in your life so you can deal with it all at once and create a solution for every single thing. Your brain just thinks that that's helpful to you. And you can tell your brain that it's actually not helpful and there's a better way to do things. So that's what I started to dive into this week is, number one, what is this voice? We determined it's tied to the human experience. It's meant to help you survive. And you're actually the awareness that's watching that voice. You're actually the awareness that is watching that thinking happen. Same with pain to the physical body or anything that happens. You know it happened because you saw it happen. Even when you have anesthesia or something, or maybe you have a near-death experience and you were unconscious, maybe you wake up, oh my gosh, I had the most incredible experience while I was out with anesthesia. Can I tell you about it? Well, how do you know something happened? Because I was there, because I saw it. It's not happening to you. These things aren't happening to you. You are the awareness that is watching these things happen. That is why no matter what happens, you are completely safe because things are kind of unfolding in front of you. You are, even in death, you are completely safe. Ram Dass says that death is like taking off a tight shoe. So if relief and love and peace and bliss were actually like the root of who you truly are and what this actually is, then that means anything on top of that isn't who you are. And you can work through it so you get to experience that peace, that liberation, that safety. But before you can do that, we have to understand the thing that's talking and understand that that is not who we are. So one of the first things is, of course, a brain dump and going through and seeing the root of your worries. Are these things that you can prepare for? Are these things you have a solution for? Are these things you can even control at all? One thing that may help you is creating a list that's like a 3-line list on a paper that says what I can control, what I can influence, and what I cannot control. This will be able to tell your brain, okay, these things are worth worrying about and these things are not worth worrying about. And I promise you the voice will get quieter. And the great thing about journaling all of this down is you can always come back to it as well. And I promise you, the more that you do this work and learn about this voice, the awareness is a lot of the work. It's really beautiful when you start to explore you being the witness of these thoughts, of these feelings, opposed to the one that's actually in it, experiencing it fully. So, and one thing that I found out, at least leaned into this week, is your quality of peace will be in alignment to the amount you let the voice run wild. So if you let the voice completely run wild, say whatever it wants, and you are grabbing onto these thoughts, grabbing onto these perceptions, you are emotionally attaching to them, you are resisting things, it's going to affect your quality of peace every single day. And if you know that your only job is to allow life to unfold in front of you, and you release your preferences and judgments about how you need things to be, you're going to notice a huge difference in how you feel. And one thing I also started telling myself, like, oh, what if this happens to my business? Or what if this happens to my health down the road? Or this or this or this? Just counteract that thought with a thought that's more reasonable. Like, what if I'm completely wrong about this? What if it actually turns out way better than I expect? Or what if that never happens and I just spend all of my time, all of my wasted time thinking about that, when that's not even something that would happen? Really what you're doing is you're just trying to provide more information to your brain so it knows that it's not completely in danger. We are safe a majority of the time. If you think about when something bad, quote unquote bad, actually happens to you, And after, like, when we're just thinking about it or worrying about it, whether it's in the past or the future, it's a very short amount of time. And so really this work is about like learning to relax and release to what that mind is saying. And back to kind of what I was experiencing, I was resisting it every step of the way. I was trying to find any way to, I didn't see it as covering it up, but I was like, okay, let me do breath work. Let me put on a video from, I watched this channel called Therapy in a Nutshell. And it's all these bite-sized videos on therapy, tons of stuff on therapy. I don't even know how to how to sum it up, but it literally is therapy in a nutshell. And so I'd be like, okay, let me try to learn about anxiety or panic attacks, or let me do this or this. And the mind still thinks that when you feel some way, you have to do something. It's still trying to control the outcome. And as long as I'm trying to do something about how I feel inside, I'm giving away my power for how I actually feel. And it was so uncomfortable too when you're like really in anxiety. You literally feel like you can't escape it. It's everywhere, and it's because it's happening inside. That's why you feel you can't escape it. It's because it's not happening outside. It's happening inside of you. And so, and if you look anywhere, this is when it really started to click, because we talk about acceptance, we talk about surrender, but I am an avid learner. I love to learn. I love to read books. I love to watch documentaries. I love to take courses. I love to learn constantly. And I have been struggling with like anxiety, for example, for a majority of my life. But lately it's been coming up in a way where it's like what my 14-year-old self used to experience. And it doesn't matter if I'm reading a book about Buddhist teachings, within therapy, just some life coach techniques for this type of stuff. It all comes down to witnessing what is happening without judgment and completely surrendering and accepting it. And I was like, oh, well, what happened if I didn't try to change how I feel? Like, of course, being nauseous or being physically or emotionally upset or having a bellyache, whatever it is, it obviously feels uncomfortable, and we can totally acknowledge that. But we can love ourselves through it and say, yeah, that's okay. I will allow myself to feel this way for as long as I need to, and for it to go when it's ready to go. And I just started to welcome it in. I literally started to be like, hello, anxiety, I see that you're back today. Even though this is a little bit uncomfortable, I am willing to allow you to be with me today, because it is important for me to feel my feelings. You can say something like that, and all of a sudden you feel it soften and you feel it release. And this is exactly what Michael Singer was talking about. As soon as we feel a discomfort inside, you relax the heart, you step behind the awareness, so you're almost watching this happen. It doesn't feel so personal and scary and like you're in danger. You allow yourself to step back and allow these feelings or this energy to pass through you. You're literally a vessel in this ocean of life, and things are coming to you and through you, but they can only work their way through you if you release your grasp on them. And we're allowed to feel pain. We're allowed to grieve. We're allowed to feel uncomfortable in a situation, but you have to also ask yourself, am I feeling this from the actual situation that happened, or what my mind told me happened? Because I promise you, the dialogue that's going on in your head is completely different from the actual situation. And you can definitely see that when you start to journal and actually see your thoughts. You're like, oh my gosh, I can totally see how this was rooted out of jealousy, or oh my God, I can totally see how this was rooted out of me like wanting this situation to be a certain way. How our mind thinks, like the information that our mind gives us, affects how we show up and talk to people. It affects our relationships. It affects like the authenticity in the conversations that we have. It affects everything. And if you practice radical like acceptance and surrender, and like as soon as you feel something uncomfortable inside, allowing it to completely take over and really getting to know what that feeling is like, I promise you will transform your entire relationship to your inner self, and things will get more quiet. You'll be able to relax in the present moment, and you will feel this peace and this liberation and this bliss that so many people talk about, that Michael Singer talks about. And one thing, if you are struggling with understanding how you feel, like it's hard to process your emotions if you don't know how you feel, I got this thing called a feelings wheel, and it's literally a wheel with all the human emotions on it. I use this in the morning. I would especially use this if you are like feeling something uncomfortable and you don't know how you feel and you want to kind of work through it. I've talked about a body scan before. This is basically part of the body scan. So let me open this really fast. Okay, so let's say that I'm feeling like uneasy inside. I just don't know exactly how I'm feeling. You want to start with these center emotions, because these are just like basic emotions like happy, surprise, fear, anger, disgust, sad. You'll most of the time be able to tell which of these categories you fit in first, right? So let's say, okay, maybe we are feeling a little anxious. Maybe I resonate the most with fear, okay? So we're gonna go down: scared, anxious, insecure, submissive, rejected. Anxious was mine for a lot of the time. Okay, now at anxious, there's overwhelmed and worried. I would say I was kind of both. I was overwhelmed by the worry I was feeling. This gives us so much clarity on how we're feeling, and once we know how we're feeling, we can more so welcome it in a lot easier, and also understand if like anything was particularly causing this. Because if we just feel uncomfortable and intense inside, but we don't know exactly which kind of category our emotion is in, it's very hard to understand also where that emotion came from. So once you know what your actual emotion is, so let's say that it is like overwhelmed, you're going to check in with your body, and this is how you process your emotions and integrate it, and you can release it. This is literally how to overcome reoccurring anxiety in the body, or anything that you're trying to process that seems to be coming up again. Even if it's a brand new feeling, you can do this. Even if it's a fantastic feeling, you can go through this process to fully feel those emotions, because we don't just want to fully feel and process emotions that are uncomfortable. We want to fully feel emotions that we love to feel also, right? So this is really just creating some intelligence and awareness in the body. So once I have categorized the exact emotion that I'm feeling, I'm going to focus on that emotion. Okay, overwhelm. Okay. I'm going to start at the top of my head, and I'm going to scan what overwhelm feels like in my body. So I'm going to think about overwhelm, and I'm going to scan my body. So I definitely tense my jaw here. I already feel it tense. Maybe your chest feels a little bit tense. Oh, but my belly. That's where my main worry and my main emotions sit, is in my belly. So maybe you scanned your entire body, you understand how this emotion affects different parts of your body. And then you say, okay, I see that it's sitting mostly in my belly. Now you just want to ask yourself some questions. If you had to give this emotion a color in your body, what color would it be? For me, I think I said like overwhelm was like a burgundy color, like a dark burgundy. You want to identify if you feel this emotion moving around, or does it like stay in one spot. For me, fear, anxiety, all of that, they kind of sit in my belly mostly. Is it hard or soft? So this is how deep emotions go. They have their own personality. They have their own unique textures and feelings and colors. And the more you can tap into these things with your emotion, I promise you, you're going to see and feel in a completely different way as far as this work goes. Once you have identified if it is hard or soft, what the color is, if it moves around, or if it's stationary, you're going to simply ask it, what is it that you want to tell me? And you just want to hold on to that area and just kind of breathe into it. And what I got from mine when I did this very clearly was relax and let go. And I didn't know exactly what it meant, like, oh, just to this emotion or what? It was all of the things in my mind that were causing my mind to suffer. That's what it was talking about. But I didn't realize, oh, smoky gray, interesting. And I also have like a little notebook that I use for this that I found is pretty helpful for like body scans and stuff. But you totally welcome it in, and you allow it, you breathe it in, and you totally allow it to take over. And what you'll realize is when you work with your emotions in this way, it doesn't get trapped in the body, it doesn't get trapped in the heart, and it doesn't continue to come back up every single day. You're fully allowing yourself to experience it, and it is such a beautiful feeling. It totally changes how it feels in your body when you soften and when you let go. And I've even been experiencing this with physical pain. So not even just like emotional pain or feeling the emotions in the body. Like anytime I have felt physical pain or something, I try not to run away from it. I will practice using that to allow it in. Like even also in yoga today. Today was core day in yoga that I'm doing. And oh my god, it was so difficult to stick with it because the entire, like the 20-minute session that I did was all on the core, like consistently. And the only thing that was almost getting me to give up was that voice in my head talking about how uncomfortable it was. Oh, this hurts. This is uncomfortable. This and this and this and this and this. And once I surrendered to what I was feeling and just saw the pain as a sensation, it stopped having a hold on me and my mind didn't fight me on it because it wasn't something that I tried to resist or run from. When you do that, by the way, when you have a thought come up and you try to push it away and run from it, the brain's like, oh, that thought is really important for some reason to them. So to protect them, I'm going to keep bringing that thought up over and over and over so they can prepare themselves and protect themselves from just in case this thing happens. When you connect to the thoughts emotionally that your mind is telling you, again, they have nothing to do with what's going to happen. They have nothing to do with the facts. They have nothing to do with you at all. It is just giving you random stimuli to try to help you navigate this experience. When you connect to it in that way, and when you have a thought that like really hits different and you try to run away from it, you try to suppress it, you try to distract yourself, your brain now sees that thought as super important, and now you're going to notice it come up so much more. We really have to look at what resistance means, and sometimes even tools that can help us release anxiety and stuff are used to kind of distract or to resist. And what I mean by that is, like, let's say you're feeling anxiety, so you decide to go do breath work, you decide to go on a walk. You don't want to focus on the feelings anxiety is giving you and trying to get out of those feelings. You want to focus on where the anxiety is coming from. Why do you have anxiety? You don't want to focus on what you need to do in this moment to feel okay inside. You want to ask yourself why you don't feel okay inside. That's where the work is. So if you are going to do breath work and yoga and all of these things to feel better, to not feel anxious, to do all this, make sure you do it out of a routine where you're doing it to make yourself feel better consistently instead of, oh, I feel this anxiety, let me go search a video that will help me, or let me go do breath work really quick. There's a reason you're feeling the way that you're feeling. And a lot of the time, it's not like something's actually going wrong. It's because we've let these thoughts play in our heads so many times that now our brain doesn't even have to ask us for those thoughts to come up. And we don't realize that we think we are that voice so often. Like when you are cooking and you start thinking about a fight that you had with someone like a couple years ago, your brain is now creating the same emotions, the same experience that it had in that situation, and you're basically making yourself process and go through the experience all over again. You know that you can actually tell your brain, that's actually not your job anymore. I would actually like you to focus on this instead. And you just keep reiterating anytime, and I promise you it changes. Like the other day, I was making avocado toast. I remember it because I had this experience that kind of made me laugh. I was making avocado toast, and all of a sudden I started to think of past situations with my mom when we didn't get along, or when she didn't believe me that I had something health-wise going on or whatever. And it would just, all these pain points that I used to experience when I was younger, my brain just wanted to think about while I was making avocado toast. And I remember stopping my brain and saying, oh, that's actually not helpful because that's already happened. Instead, I want you to focus on the sounds that we hear in this environment, right? And then all of a sudden, I start tuning back in, and I'm noticing it's kind of like ASMR. I'm hearing the loud sounds of the toast and all that, but before I realize again, my mind is lost. My mind is lost into the thought again with my mom, right? And I bring my brain back to the present moment once I notice it's going into the past, and I say, nope, remember, we're focusing on this present moment. I want you to focus on this avocado toast. And then I zoned out, and then I just noticed that my mind went on this daydreaming tangent of avocado toast and all the ways that you could eat avocado. Totally like I didn't go on that tangent myself. It's almost like I woke up while my brain was thinking about it. And it just made me laugh because it showed me, wow, we really just have to redirect our mind in the ways that we want to use it. But also, it's possible for the brain not to be talking all of the time. You just have to watch it talk, and I promise you it will be quiet. It's so crazy. Once you're like on a walk or something, just make the intention to watch your thoughts. Because now it's not like you're the one thinking, oh, I'm just thinking, it's not like you think you're the one doing it anymore. You're like watching it happen, like you're like watching through a window or something. And all of a sudden it's gonna behave a lot more. It's very, very interesting. But I'll kind of tell you guys, and I'm telling you, like just 2 weeks ago, I was waking up every single day in complete panic, confused, like, oh, is everything okay? Am I gonna die from this? Like, what if I die in 5 years? What if this happened? Like, every single fear that every human has, my brain was like, oh yeah, we're gonna think about that today. And because I believed in that moment that I was those thoughts, I was freaking out about why I was having these thoughts. It's just random fucking stimuli constantly. And it does get quieter when you recognize that you're not the one talking. But what really helped me get out of it, so there's a few things I did. Because I woke up in anxiety, this is one thing you should do if you wake up in anxiety. Anxiety is a very hyperactive state, right? It is very hard for us to like calm our body down and to get super chill when we're in a hyperactive state. So what you want to do, you want to match your brain's energy basically by also adapting to that state, but exaggerating it to help it get its energy out. So let's say that you're antsy, you can't lay in bed, you feel super sick, you feel anxious, you can't sleep. Get up and shake it out. Do whatever you need to do, move around, like you want to exaggerate the energy, and this is going to help kind of regulate your body and calm you down. And also, a little interesting thing that seems to have worked every single time I've tried it, your body and your brain, it doesn't know the difference between fear and excitement. It affects you psychologically the exact same way and biologically. Like, even scientists cannot tell by your brainwaves if you are in anxiety or excitement. So next time you feel anxious, just tell yourself, I'm excited. I promise it sounds weird, but tell yourself that you're excited and maybe give yourself one reason why, and I promise you, you will not feel anxious anymore. You will feel excited. It's so crazy. I literally have been doing this the past week. Yes, Greg, I totally get you. I've been doing this the past, I think, like 6 days. And this is literally day 6 of not having like any anxiety come up. And if I feel something in my stomach, I've trained myself not to fear it by letting it in. If we don't let our emotions in, if we try to resist something or push it away, we're telling our body, oh, there's something to fear here. We're not safe if we feel this. We're not safe if we experience this. And so it creates more anxiety when it comes up and has a bigger effect on your physical body and your mind. So anytime you feel something uncomfortable, you want to totally practice welcoming it in, like it's totally fine. Hello, anxiety. I see that you want to come hang out for a little bit today. I'm going to let you stay with me today, but we're still going to go and do the thing. You don't have to let these emotions or these things control you. And my big thing was like nausea. Like when I'd get anxious, I'd get super nauseous, and I hated the feeling of being nauseous. So I'd almost like try to make myself throw up. I would literally sit in the bathroom, like over the toilet, and just try to make myself think of things to like help me purge. But there was like hardly, and that would sometimes be first thing in the morning. There wouldn't be anything in my stomach, and I'm just telling my body, oh yeah, there's something, we're sick, we're like, there's something wrong here. But it's so weird. As soon as I woke up, got out of bed when I felt anxious, and just allowed the nausea to be with me, just welcomed it, it went away. I would spend my whole days like feeling sick when I would have these flare-ups, but just accepting has allowed me to like not experience them in the same way at all. And with waking up in anxiety, going back to that, if you feel like you are anxious, you should just get out of bed. When you feel tired, go back to bed, because you want your brain to know that your bed is for when you feel tired. Your bed is for when you feel relaxed. That is your space to rest. So if you feel hyperactive, you can't relax, get out of bed, do something to kind of match that energy or to neutralize what you're feeling and let yourself know, oh, it's totally okay to feel this, actually. It's totally fine. There's nothing gone wrong. We can feel this feeling and still go on about our day. You really just want to let your brain know that you're safe in the moment that you're in, especially when you come out of maybe periods of intense anxiety or stress or trauma. You have to rewire your body. You have to let your body know that it's safe now for these emotions to come up and for me to feel these things. And that's probably why this was coming up, because for the whole year, my intention was for 2024 to heal my body and mind and to learn about who I truly am. It is February, and I have really been thrown into the body and mind healing, and to learn about who I truly am. The universe took that really to heart, because I've been exploring who I am on the other side of these thoughts, and it is so fucking peaceful and cool. Like, I can't wait to share more with you guys. Oh yeah, I was going to tell you about my morning routine that's helped me. So because I was like anxious every single morning, I would make myself get up and go for a walk every single morning. And I'd put on Michael Singer. If you don't know who Michael Singer is the author of The Untethered Soul, Living Untethered, and The Surrender Experiment. He has been the backbone of me feeling this way and like really allowing these things to sink more deeply. I promise you. Oh my gosh. You guys have to read The Untethered Soul. It is all about this. Like, you know that you're in there. You like, and even if I tell you to say, okay, say hello in your mind. Say, hello, how are you? You can hear that voice. That voice doesn't just talk and ramble all the time. You can get it to do things. You can get it to talk. And so it's learning about who you truly are, and also this almost machine that we are running temporarily for this human experience. But I would wake up every single morning and I would play Michael Singer on my walk, and it is the most, and I'm still doing it every single day, and I just love him so much. If you guys need any, I literally have like so many of his talks saved, and they're like between 30 minutes and an hour, and I listen to him every single day. I have a whole playlist for self-care, self-help stuff, so if any of you need anything, I've got you. But that's been my routine, no matter the weather. It doesn't matter if it's raining, it doesn't matter if it's a blizzard, it doesn't matter if it's sunny. I am committed to taking this walk, and because I could tell, it made me feel better. And so I was like, okay, so this is where self-discipline comes in. Once I find something that really makes me feel better, I gotta stick with it. So walk with my dog, Michael Singer. I would come back, and I have started doing like yoga. And because I fell out of yoga for a little bit, you guys maybe know this person named Yoga with Adriene. She has like 12.5 million subscribers on YouTube, but she does these like 30-day challenges, so it's easy for me to show up every single day to start creating the habits again. So I was like, okay, wake up, go on a walk with Michael Singer while I'm walking with Juno, come back, do yoga. It's like 20 minutes. I feel super good after. And then I got this app called the Tapping Solution, and it's for EFT tapping, emotional freedom technique. And it's basically you're tapping the meridian points to rewire your brain, to acknowledge how you feel, and to change how you think about whatever situation you're in. And so I started tapping every single day through this app. It makes it super, super easy to learn. And that's what I recommend doing, is like making it as easy as possible to stick with the things that you want to stick with. Like before, when I told myself, okay, I'm just going to do yoga for a little bit, like sometimes I would half-ass my yoga session because it was up to me. So I'm like, okay, I'll just stretch a little bit, whatever. But like having a video that I show up to every day, and it's like a 30-day journey, like I'm showing up every single day, it's helped me feel confident, it's helped me feel more powerful, and my mind has been more quiet. And now it's kind of fun because Michael Singer just always talks about, watch when that voice creates a disturbance inside. Watch what that voice says when what's happening has nothing to do with you. If it's raining right now and your brain's like, oh, I hate the rain, this means it's a horrible day, oh, we gotta stay inside, blah, 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 blah. None of that actually happened. You created that. You created that suffering inside because it decided to rain on planet Earth at the moment of space that you were in. That's a beautiful, cool fucking thing, first of all. And we create so much suffering and really put in so many human things into these bigger universal phenomena that we think we understand. Like even the fact that it can rain on the planet that you're on and that you get to experience it and that you're alive right now and you have no idea how you got here. Like that's what's magical about the moment. There really is magic in every single moment, but our mind is what it filters it out. I thought of this the other day in a plant medicine experience that I had, and it really hit at a deep level for me. So it's kind of like, think about the sky. The sun is your soul. The sun is your soul. Regardless if you can see it or not, regardless of what the weather is, that sun is always there, whether you can see it or not, right? The thoughts that you have are clouds. They pass by. They don't necessarily have a form to them or a routine or whatever. They just come and go. And we can focus on them. We can see different shapes out of them. We can make them into things that they're not. We can hold on to them. Or we can allow them to pass by. And only when we allow these thoughts to pass by, these clouds to pass by, can we feel the warmth of the sun? Can we feel the warmth of our soul? Can we feel that Shakti, that ecstasy, that nirvana inside that lies within every single moment? The rain, that's our emotions. The rain is our emotions, and it's something that we need to surrender to, because look what blooms if we surrender and totally allow it to take over. Think about the nutrients that is in the rain. Think about all the things on planet Earth that need the rain. I thought this was super beautiful. And then it's almost like the sky is your awareness of all of it. You know, your soul, the sun, the clouds, which are your thoughts, the rain, which is your emotions. And then maybe the earth is the truth, like where it all comes down to, you know? And I thought about that when I was in my experience, and I was like, wow. And every time a sensation came in, whether it was physical pain, whether it was emotional pain, whether it was a random thought, and I started to just laugh at some of my thoughts. I'm like, okay, like, why would I get upset about that? Once you start to discover who you are outside of the thoughts, you will stop associating yourself with the thoughts. They will not seem to be so heavy. They won't have substance to them. And someone asked me this. They're like, well, what about the good thoughts? What about the thoughts that tell me that I'm amazing and that I can do it and that this and this and this? Michael Singer talked about this too. When he says, like, don't listen to the thoughts and all of a sudden there's good thoughts coming in. That's the same voice talking. We can't pick and choose what we like about this voice, what we want this voice to say, what we don't want this voice to say, because that's literally still control. In the moment, that's still resistance and control of what's happening, you know? And so you shouldn't rely on anything that voice says. You should know who you truly are and what's actually happening. And I think he has this talk that's like an hour long called Let the Deeper Truths Set You Free. And it really is about like the planet Earth and like what's actually happening right now. And when we judge the rain, like scientifically what's happening when it rains, it like shows your brain that things aren't always like, they're not about us. Like when it decides to rain or when this happens or when this car goes by, like we have so many judgments about the world and preferences about how we would prefer things to be. And I'd really feel fine if he just asked me out on this date, you know, and then once he does, like, oh, well, now I'd really like it if you bought me this thing. It's like our mind will never be satisfied because it doesn't know how to be satisfied. If you are focusing on this, if you believe you're this mind, that's constantly like judging every single thing around you and you're searching outside of yourself for that peace, you will absolutely never find it. Peace comes from those moments of perceived suffering, perceived discomfort. That's what I've been realizing lately. Because when you sink into those moments, you realize, wow, I'm okay. Like, I'm sure some of you who have like anxiety or panic attacks, like you know how heavy that can feel. It clouds your entire perception. Everything seems dark and isolating and scary. Like you feel super alone. It feels super intense. I don't even know how to describe it. But sink into that in that moment. What's causing that suffering in the moment anyways? Like, surrender to it. Like, eventually you probably get so sick of it that you're just like, fuck it, I don't care anymore. I'm literally just going to, like, allow it to be what it is. But then you realize that that's when you're set free, is in that moment. Because your brain is scared of feeling those things or thinking those things because of how hard we resist them. Because if we resist them that hard, then there must be pain attached to it. That we must not be safe if we feel that thing or if we think that thing. And that's what causes it to feel so heavy. But when we allow it in and we don't see emotions or sensations higher than other ones, like when we can just see them all a part of the human experience, like these are all things that this physical body even has the ability to feel. Like, that's beautiful. That's super cool. When you start to see them like that, you start to want to surrender to them. And trust me, Michael Singer says this as well. You want to feel these things. You don't want to know what happens if you keep them. I'm sure you already know what happens when you keep these all pushed down inside and you create your life based on resistance and what you need to feel okay and trying to avoid everything that doesn't make you feel okay. What if you knew that you were okay in every single moment regardless of what was happening? You're just so in front of the moment that it's hard for you to realize the moment has nothing to do with you. This is just life unfolding right in front of you. You are just the awareness that is watching this. When you have a sensation come up in the body, you are behind that. You are watching it pass through this vessel. It's like this human body was like a radio station that tunes to different energies and emotions and thoughts, and we just watch them wash through us, and it's beautiful, and we don't have to be involved in it at all. The only job is that we need to surrender to it, you know. And it's same with overthinking. We're usually overthinking because we're trying to sift through the thoughts to see what makes sense and what doesn't. And, well, let's take this out. That's no good. Oh, it keeps coming up. How do we keep this thought out? It's like there's so much control going on in our mind. When have you ever just explored what it was like to not do that? What happens when you don't do that? What happens when you don't do what your mind thinks you need to do to be okay? Oh, okay, well, if we don't message them and make sure that they're not mad at us, then we're not going to feel okay, then this and this. Try practicing doing the exact opposite of what your mind tells you to do in order for you to be okay, and you'll realize that you're still okay. And that is what will take the pain out of that thought, that experience. And when you realize nothing that anybody else does has anything to do with you, we are all in our own universes. I promise everybody is having a billion thoughts, a billion different things going on in their life. And we make things seem so personal. We inflict so much of the suffering on ourselves. And I realized I was doing that as well by, like resisting not wanting to feel sick. Like, this is the best I've ever felt in my life. But since I was 14, that's when I started to develop really intense digestive issues. And it's so uncomfortable. It hurts. We don't want to feel nauseous. We don't want to do this. We don't want to do that. That's okay. We don't have to like feeling that way, but we can accept that it is that way in this moment, and that's okay. And this doesn't mean that we're going to be stuck in this moment. It's just allowing yourself to be exactly where you are without judgment, without thinking that you need to change something outside of you so you're okay. You're okay. You're okay no matter what. That's what I want you to know. And we think so many things are threats, but that's what really hit when Ram Dass said it, is even upon death we are safe. Death is like taking off a tight shoe. Like, our home base, before we piled all this random shit on top of it, is peace and bliss and ecstasy. And he said, like, once a being reaches that state truly, you don't come out of it. You are there. And you can still feel pain in that space and these different things, but it doesn't, your mind's the one that makes you believe that it hurts. It doesn't hurt. It's like cold water, for example. Oh, I really had that experience the other day. I was like, hey, I really need to practice putting myself in discomfort to prove to my mind that we are safe. And because it's winter here, the pipes must be like extra freezing. Because right after my shower, I turned it on absolutely freezing, and all of my breath was just taken away from me. I was completely tense, and this makes sense for like anxiety and resistance. We do the same thing. We tense up, we resist, we can't breathe, we can't, our mind is so active. Turn it off, get out. Why are we feeling this discomfort? But once you take that breath and you see the cold as a sensation, the only thing that makes you feel like you can't handle it is the mind telling you, oh, it's too cold, we're gonna die, what if I can't handle it, is it time up yet, has it been 2 minutes, like whatever it is. If you surrender to the sensation that you're feeling, you will feel liberation in that feeling and after that feeling. And that's what cold exposure therapy does, for example. And the more you can get used to feeling uncomfortable when it's difficult to, you're going to realize you are stronger than this mind. This mind will now not control you. This mind is a great servant, but a terrible master. It will never be able to help you find peace because it doesn't know that peace is inside. And where we go wrong is that when we have pain in our heart or discomfort in our heart, it's very hard to soften our heart and allow ourselves to feel it. So where do we go? To the mind. Hey, mind, this heart is hurting. Maybe that's the conversation that the heart is having with the mind. Hey, mind, I'm hurting down here. I need you to help me figure out how to not feel this way. Okay, well, what do you want me to do? I don't know, just think about it until you come up with a solution. And now guess what you've tasked your mind with doing? Thinking about everything it can to try to make itself okay based off your external environment when it has nothing to do with that. Now that you've given that job to your brain, you need to tell your brain it's not its job anymore. It's not the mind's job anymore to bring up every past situation, every future situation that could happen. And there is something that is helpful for this. If you are someone that does have these worries about, well, what if this happens in this situation, or what if this happens? You want to let your brain know that you're listening. That's super, super important, because if your brain doesn't think you're listening, it's going to keep sending you the same anxieties and worries. So what I recommend doing is writing out all of the problems that your brain thinks that you have. And again, I do a journal brain dump first. I write out all of the noise. And then if there's like specific situations where your mind's like, well, what if this happens in this situation, or what if this happens? Like, okay, no problem, brain. We're going to write down these problems, and we're going to come up with a solution for each one. That way, no matter what happens, we're covered and we can move on. And I promise you, your brain will get quieter once it knows that you're listening to it, and once it knows that you're telling it what its job is and what it isn't anymore. Like, I promise you, it needs you there to mediate and to direct it. Again, it's a great servant, but a horrible, horrible master. And another thing, it's called scheduled worry. Your brain doesn't know when you want it to worry, right? It thinks that it's helpful to worry all the time. So you may wake up and immediately start worrying. Maybe you notice yourself worrying throughout work or school. Maybe even before you go to bed, you're just caught worrying. Well, what you can do is you can train your brain to worry at a specific time. That way you can address these things that your mind has a hard time with. And that way, eventually, you're going to notice throughout your days that your mind's a lot quieter, because it knows when that time is to have that scheduled worry. So maybe you dedicate to 4 p.m. every single day. 4 p.m. for 10 minutes, you're going to allow yourself to worry. You're going to write down all of your worries on paper, and again, you can also write down the solutions if you want to. But this is really just letting your mind know, I'm listening, I'm here and I'm listening, and this is how we can actually feel better the right way. Your brain doesn't know like how to get to these places. It just thinks it knows what you want and what you don't want. And so if you give it time to have that scheduled worry every single day, the only thing is you want to make sure that you commit to that every single day, because that's going to prevent your mind from waking you up in panic or thinking that first thing in the morning, that's the perfect time to worry. So scheduled worry is a way to get your mind on your side so you can have productive thoughts that you want to have. Now, one helpful thing that I will tie in with like the thought download thing, you guys have I've talked about it on the channel, but it's called the CTFAR method. And basically, the circumstances we have influence the thoughts we have, and the thoughts we have influence the feelings that we have. And based on how we feel, that's going to determine our actions, and our actions determine our results. So our results actually stem from our thoughts about the circumstance that we're having. So after your thought download, you're going to have you're going to basically create like a T-graph. One side is going to be unintentional thoughts. So that's basically what's going on right now when you're in panic. And the second column is going to be new thoughts or a new perspective to start retraining your brain. So let's, for example, say, and the circumstance on both is going to be the exact same. So let me write out, let me see if I can find this really quick. CTFAR model. Okay. So you're basically going to have, I will get this bigger. Okay, I'm gonna have to screenshot this really quick. And again, you're gonna write CTFAR on a little T-graph, and then we're going to use both ones. Okay, let me see if this works. Okay, so you're going to write down your thought download above it, like on your piece of paper, and then CTFAR in 2 columns. This is the unintentional, so this is how you feel right now, and this is after we work through the issue. So let's say that the circumstance you wrote about is that you have a relationship that's dear to you. You have a relationship that you care about. And the thought, the worry that keeps coming up is, what if they pull away and I lose them? That's the thought that you notice is coming up in your thought download. So next you're going to write what feeling that creates in your body. Well, that obviously creates like fear, right? So the thought that you're creating from this circumstance, which really doesn't have anything to do with this thought, it's just that you have a relationship you care about, right? Everything else, we're giving it a different meaning. So we recognize the thought that is driving the intense emotion, and we're going to tap into what feeling this thought is creating. Oh, well, I realize it's creating fear in my body. Okay, well, what action now is created from that fear? Now you realize you don't relate interpersonally in a confident way. You ruminate about losing them. You're searching for evidence that they could leave you, and you're clinging and not feeling good about it. And what's the result of that action? Well, now I could lose my relationship due to fear, stress, and worry holding on too tight. So isn't that interesting that the thought you were having is, what if they pull away and I lose them? And that thought is creating the result of that you could lose this relationship, because that thought is creating a feeling of fear that causes you to act in fear. So now let's talk about how you want to think about this situation. And that's going to create a whole new feeling in your body, which is going to create a whole new action and result. So this is where we intentionally create how we want to feel instead. So again, the circumstance doesn't change. The circumstance is the exact same. But what's the thought that you want to have that's going to replace this one, that's going to feel a lot better? Things feel good, and I don't need to worry ahead of time that I will lose them. It serves no purpose. And that is true. You also can't predict the future, right? And so these are true facts that you could tell your brain that do create a different feeling in the body. So really what we're wanting to do is change the thought that is creating the feeling, so we can have a whole new set of thoughts, feelings, and actions, right? So now that you've changed, and now anytime this fearful thought comes up, this is when you're going to start replacing it with this good thought. And it's just repetition until it's like training a dog. Again, if your dog keeps peeing in the house, every time it pees in the house, you take him outside right after. Eventually the dog's going to make the connection, right? So it's the same thing with your brain. Anytime this negative thought comes in, you're going to replace it with this new thought. That way you leave the situation in a different feeling, a feeling that will actually create something positive for you. So this new thought, well, how does that make you feel? Confident. Great. So now what is an action that you can take out of confidence? Well, you can look for confirmation of a happy relationship. Actively manage your mind around thoughts and feelings feel comfortable and confident with your partner, and enjoy time with them more and improve connection. So just because you told yourself that it serves no purpose to worry about something that hasn't even happened and there's no evidence of that happening, it completely changes your actions towards the situation. And what's the result of that? I'll prove to myself that I'm good at being in a loving relationship, and I don't need fear of losing it. I can enjoy life more and know that I will be okay regardless. And that's really what we're trying to do, is we're trying to see what thoughts are going on that are limiting, that aren't even true, that are creating uncomfortable feelings and actions and results in our lives, and how we can actually change the entire situation around just based on how we're thinking about the situation. So that's how much energy, or that's how much power the mind has when we connect to it. We can either emotionally connect to thoughts that damage us and just lead us down a path that we don't really want to go down, or we can learn what that next best thought is that still feels true to the brain, that creates a completely different feeling in the body. So again, this is called thought download with the CTFAR model, and this is just one of the techniques that I use to work through my thoughts. Again, there's so many ways to do this work, but really you don't want to avoid, you don't want to reject, you don't want to deny, you really want to let your mind know that you're listening and you want to address what's going on inside. But there's also one thing I want to say as well. It is normal to feel worry, right? Worry is a feeling. But worrying is something that you are choosing to do. So that's also another good point, is to learn the difference between having a worry and worrying. Worrying is basically expanding that worry in your thoughts, diving into it, emotionally connecting with it, and letting it just ruminate and sit in your thoughts. There are, again, scheduled worry is when that will come in. That way you're acknowledging the worry you do have, but you're giving yourself time to work with it, so it's not just playing out throughout the entire day. And I promise you, the more that you retrain your brain, it will get quieter, you will feel more at peace, and there's so many techniques that also can be super handy for even just resetting your nervous system when you need it. I'll show you one of my favorites really quick. And again, I recommend doing this not just when you feel anxious, but all the time, to create that sense of safety again, right? So we know about the vagus nerve. If we can stimulate the vagus nerve, then we can reset our nervous system. And the vagus nerve is it connects to our rest and digest response. So this is a way to take us out of flight or flight into rest and digest. So you basically want to take your two fingers, or like this, and you're going to massage your earlobes right here. And you can tell when you have a release or when you are stimulating your vagus nerve, because you will have the urge to yawn. You may sneeze. You may take a deep breath. You may feel your body relax or get a little bit slumped. Mine that I notice is I yawn just now as well. And that is your sign that your body is feeling more relaxed, because your body doesn't really yawn or doesn't really want to go to sleep if it is in fear. And so that's a way, if you just feel a little bit uneasy or you want to start creating more safety in the body, that is something to do. Also, you see people rubbing their temples a lot. I wouldn't really rub your temples hard. It's more so about pulling the skin slightly back. And that also resets the vagus nerve. And something that's very interesting, another technique, and you just do this for literally 30 seconds, 60, whatever you want, and you'll start to feel it work. Another one is your eyes are actually connected to your two top vertebrae, and the direction of your eyes actually connect to your nervous system. So what you want to do is you want to kind of put your thumbs rested just at the base of your neck, and you basically want to keep your head forward, but eventually we're going to look to the right while keeping our nose forward, and you kind of want to look to the right as far as you can while it feels comfortable. You want to feel a tiny bit of pull in your eyes, but you want it to feel comfortable. Basically, this is resetting the nervous system. So if you notice that you feel anxious or you need a reset or whatever, just do this, take a nice deep breath while facing forward and look to one side all the way. And after about 30 seconds, you can come back into the center slowly and look to the other side. And this has calmed me down, like straight up out of anxiety attacks. I discovered it not too long ago. This was the one I started doing. And the more you do it, I feel like it will get easier. Come back when you're ready. But I found for me, for like what's just easiest, what works like the best and the quickest, is just that like massage on your ears, just like that, like right under your ears and right on top, and you're almost like pulling your like earlobes down. That immediately makes me feel relaxed. And so that, oh yeah, and also right here you can massage between your thumb and your index finger, and that also helps stimulate safety in the body. So there are simple things that you can do when you are feeling a little bit anxious, but I would try to dive deep. You don't have to dive deep into every single thing every single time it comes up, but I would ask yourself why it's coming up, you know? Is it a thought that you're creating in your mind, or a worry that you're creating in your mind? Is it something that's actually going on? Or do you just get random, spontaneous anxiety that doesn't really have to do with anything? And if that's the case, it probably means that anxiety is wired in your nervous system, and all you need to do is really just learn how to rewire your body back to safety. And you can undo anxiety. You can make peace and happiness a habit, just like anxiety is made for so many of us. But it just takes awareness, surrender, and being willing to look at things closely and to feel things. Don't be scared of your feelings. And the more that you think about what's actually happening, like that you're always safe, you are, because consciousness can never die. Nothing can ever happen to who you truly are. And the one that's talking inside, if it's talking, it's not you. If you hear lots of noise and voices talking, that is not you. That is something you are witnessing. Remember, just think of them as those clouds. And that's just part of having an ego and a human brain in this experience. It's created to help us survive, but we have to retrain it to focus on the correct things, or else it's just wasting its time. And again, one of the brain's job is to be efficient. It doesn't like to waste time, so you need to let your mind know where it's wasting its energy and how to best direct it, and you're just going to hold its hand and help reiterate what you want it to do until it becomes natural. And this is something I've really been playing with a lot. I've really been testing my own boundaries and discipline and my ability to surrender to discomfort. And so you're not in this alone. I'm sharing this because this is also something that I'm going through, and this has been something I've been playing with the past like week, especially as I have so much coming up that I feel like it's just like ready to be released. Plus, I feel like everything happens in exact timing. I'm about to move to Washington. There's so much probably inside that I like don't want to take with me. And there's probably a lot of realizations that would really help bring me more peace. And it's how I imagine my life being out there. And so trust what's coming up as it's coming up. Trust exactly where you are. You are exactly where you're supposed to be. I promise you, you don't have any like responsibilities other than allowing things to be as they are when they pass in front of you, and finding what creates joy and play in your life. And of course, we're gonna have to do the stupid human shit that we don't want to do, right? That's just part of the experience. But it could be fun and playful if you really think about what's happening. If you really separate and step back and look at what's happening, you'll really start to enjoy those things, because it's very, very temporary and nothing is set in stone. And so really learning to live as life flows by, I think that's where you're going to find the most peace. And also giving yourself some sort of purpose. Like sometimes when I'm sick and I'm like not working or doing anything, I feel like, I don't know, there's nowhere to put this energy. And so help your mind out. Find ways to use your energy or your beautiful ideas, or give yourself another reason to wake up in the morning. Because sometimes when you don't have a reason to wake up, that's when the thoughts start to get really active. Like, well, what are we even doing here? You know, it's because you're meant to create, you're meant to play, you're meant to feel pleasure. So allow yourself to do that and explore in what ways that can come in. But yes, that's basically kind of what I had to share today. I hope that it was helpful in some way. But yeah, I think for anyone who is really interested, I would love to post. I do post some of Michael Singer's talks in the Telegram group. So if you ever need any resources, even on something in particular, I can look at my because I have a whole playlist that I've made for myself to help me in moments when I need it and to help me remember who I truly am. Like, I've created this playlist specifically for this work. And so if you have questions or you need one of the resources I may have, let me know and I would love to chat with you. And again, coming back to where we started, if you are interested in meditation and dream work, I have the program that has just now been released to everyone, whether you are an iPhone user, an Apple user, or an iPhone user, Android user, or you check out Peak on the actual web browser. Now everybody can join the challenge that I have, so I'm gonna go ahead and post that link here just so everybody has that there. Let me see. May, I'm sorry, I'm just seeing this. You say, can I get those links? What links are you referring to in particular? Is it this one, or is it from the talks I was talking about with Michael Singer? If that is the case, I don't know if you are in the Telegram, but I would be more than happy to post them in the group if you're in there, or you can reach out and I'd be more than happy to send that to you as well. So happy to finally catch one of your lives. One of your latest videos inspired me to start being grateful for every experience, whether positive or negative. It's made such a difference. Burnt Pop-Tarts, I love that. And a lot of the time, it's our brain that tells us if something's negative or positive. And yeah, just challenge yourself to find the beauty in the things that you feel discomfort in. And really what helps me, like, when I'm too close to the problem, I literally think about, I am on a floating rock, hurtling through space. I have no idea how I got here. Tomorrow's not promised at all. We can get hit by a meteor at any time. This is a place where there are, think about how many different species on this planet there is. How many beautiful forms of nature. Like, what's the purpose of a sunset? You know, there's so many things here that are like true art, that are truly just for pleasure. And it's just so beautiful if you look at the diverse world that we get to be a part of. Like, would you rather go live on Mars? Like, what if what if Mars was our home planet? You know, like, I think we take for granted, like, how vibrant and lush and magical this world is. And even when it comes to going to work or doing this, it's almost like we're playing this human role. Like, oh, okay, I'm just gonna pretend to be a human and do human work things while we're here, which is literally not gonna matter at all later. Like, there's nothing serious or permanent about what we're experiencing, and of course it can feel that way when we emotionalize with it too much, you know, and we let our mind start to lead our preferences and our judgments. But you can't really feel suffering if you don't have those preferences. And that's what I'm playing with a lot, is like removing the preferences that I have during the day that I notice. Like, even with the weather, or even with, like, just practice letting go. Anytime that you can, practice letting go and notice what happens. Even if you realize you don't have your favorite type of tea for the morning, but you only have this type of tea, like, practice letting go and watch what happens on the other side of it. I promise. Like, you will be amazed at how you feel and who you are on the other side of those preferences, on the other side of that voice. You will find such liberation and peace. And I'm going to try to find a way that we can explore this more in, like, an upcoming meditation or something, because I'm telling you, like, just think about the mind, the thoughts, and literally taking a step back. What would it feel like to perceive from that perspective when you're feeling discomfort, or when all of this energy and these thoughts are right up in your face? Like, just imagine taking a step back And when you feel pain or emotions, whatever it is, soften your heart and literally surrender to it. It's almost like Shavasana in yoga. Like, literally be so open, so welcoming, that you almost want to feel the emotion. You almost want the sensation. You almost want the discomfort. I promise you, you'll eventually want it more than more than the power it has, and it will not, I promise you, it will not affect you the way that you think. And also 3 words. This also really helped me from Therapy in a Nutshell. She says, bring it on. Anytime you feel anxiety, anytime you feel any sort of emotion, literally welcome it in fully. Bring it on. Yeah, let's do this. And I promise you, that perception of seeing things will completely transform how you experience anything and everything. But we'll talk about this more in upcoming live streams. But yes, I hope that this served you guys. I love you all so much. Let's see. I've heard of that. Made an appointment with yourself to think about those intrusive thoughts when they start becoming. Exactly. Yep. And there's no rules to this life. You can literally create the life that you want to have, create the thoughts that you want to have. It just takes a little bit of work to rewire where we have been up until this point. That's all that it is we're working with what's already within us so we can now start creating a map for what the future us is like. But yes, I love you guys so much. Thank you so much for joining. You guys are incredible. I can't wait to see you this upcoming Monday, 5 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. And thanks for hanging out with me, my friends. I really, really, really do appreciate it. I hope you have an incredible night. And as always, I'm sending you endless love and endless lucidity. Bye, guys.